Hello. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about HRT or Heart um, from a book, Team Geek, by Colin Sussman and Fitzpatrick. This book came out in 2012. It's written by a pair of Google engineers. And their first chapter focuses on HRT, humility, respect, and trust. And the rest of the book, which is well worth a read, we might cover a little bit of it, also delves into other aspects of how teams work on engineering teams, and in particular, all their examples and everything is drawn from software. I always find it very instructive that here we have these software engineers, and the thing that they feel is most important to talk about with regard to software engineering is actually the nature of the team and the team from a social dynamics perspective. And I think they have some really good advice, and we incorporate these notions of humility, respect, and trust into the team behavior rules that we have for the class. So they call them, in fact, it goes so far as to call them the 3 pillars of social skills. And basically the idea being, if you're not paying attention to these 3, there's going to be a problem with the social functioning of you, your team, and things like that. So you always need to be reminding yourself about humility, respect, and trust. So what are we talking about? Let's get some explanation up here. So humility. I think the simple way to summarize this is that you are imperfect and the world does not revolve around you. Okay. And I think one thing to keep in mind here is, I think they kind of get at it right away, is key to this is to, I'll come back to that actually. But anyway, you are imperfect and the world does not revolve around you. I mean, you're human. So by the very nature, you're going to have flaws and problems. And you really have to get out of your mind about being superior to others. This is a terrible flaw that seems to exist in, I don't know, science, math, software, engineering. We see this at the university with one type of engineer saying they're better than another type of engineer, who then eventually says they're better than these students at this school, or better. I don't know where it comes from. I think it partly comes from overall in society, where we've got this notion that math and science are the hard subjects, and then there are softer, easier subjects. And so then that sort of builds up, and there's this sort of superiority that's like, I'm doing the hard stuff. And I think now you're surrounded by people who are only doing the hard stuff, and it just keeps going. And now you're on a team with them, and it still continues. So it's like it's a bad infection, I think. You've got to gain some humility. What I like to do, and it's going to sound a little strange, I admit it, because it is, but I often, when I like to remind myself and put myself in this mindset, and I find it works very well. So I say to myself, when thinking about other people, is if they are as stupid as I am, So maybe it's a little bit of an attack at them, but this as I am is a reminder that, well, let's think about all those stupid things that I've done in life. And if I was in this setting, in this scenario, or if I had been working on this project, let me think. Oh yeah, I once did that. Jeez. Okay. Well, if they're as dumb as I am, they're likely to have made these sorts of assumptions, these sorts of mistakes, so forth and so on. And this is a reminder to myself. I do lots of things that aren't right, aren't correct. All right, and start to feel some empathy, and be sure to put myself on the same plane as other people, because I've made lots of mistakes. I do lots of foolish things. I'm not perfect. So let's start from there, rather than what's wrong with you? How could you have been so stupid to make that mistake? No, that's not appropriate. It's not the right thing. Get your mind in the right place as you're dealing with your teammates and other people. Okay, so you are flawed, and remember it. And the big thing there is, be understanding of the mistakes other people make. And part of that really comes from perspective. You're always going to see things differently than other people. You're going to have knowledge and understanding and a perspective that they don't. We can't read each other's minds. Time and time again, I'm reminded of how, to me, something seems so obvious. Well, and to other people, it seems obvious another way. We'll get to this, I think, when we get to trust. All right, respect. All right. You must care about the people you work with. And key to this is to appreciate them for their unique abilities. We all have skills and ideas that other people don't have. And it is actually through this mixture of abilities and ideas that a team really becomes successful. Sure, you might pick one factor, which is knowledge of programming or something like that, and you go, oh, wow, look, this person knows the most and this person knows the least. But then there's other things, and there's other obvious things, such as their experience with project management. But there's other things like their ability to rally a team and make them feel good when things are going poorly. Some people have a special ability, I know because I've been told this, to be critical. I mean, it's being critical out of caring. And so, there's all sorts of things. And this mixture on a team, it gives it a lot of power. If you don't pay attention to this, you're wasting a lot of valuable ability, and not really helping maximize the team. But you care about them. And so in this needs to get into everything that you do. It's how you talk with each other. It's how you send email to each other. It's how you give feedback when you're doing a code review. You need to stay professional and act with respect to these people at all times. You don't want to degrade your relationships. Okay. So always respect them. All right. This is something you have to treat people with respect. Otherwise, things are going to fall apart. Trust. So humility is not too hard to get over. Respect, I think, is actually probably the easiest one. To remember that you have to treat people with respect and listen to them. Actually consider their ideas, appreciate them for who they are. That one feels pretty easy. But trust, I think people have a lot of difficulty with. And this I'll summarize as saying your teammates are competent. All right. And you are okay with them making decisions and doing work. Well, now we've talked about this sometimes about the nature of student teams and how we'll have someone on the team who sees themselves as this really strong person, and they might think of everyone else as really weak and not strong. And part of that, then they start to do it all. So the do-it-all team leader. And I think a big thing missing there, they're missing humility. They're probably missing some respect. They're not appreciating the actual abilities of their teammates, but they are absolutely, what ends up happening is they're missing trust. Okay? They don't think they can leave any part of the project to their teammates to do. They're going to do it all because they don't trust you to do it. If projects stay small enough so that there really are a one-person project, and for some reason the management of the company has assigned more than one person to it, well, the management's made a mistake, and sure, one person can do it. But let's assume management hasn't made a mistake, and the management really actually wants the output of the 6 or 7 people on the team. They don't want one person output, they want a team's worth of output. If you don't have trust in your teammates, you're going to really degrade the output of the team. You're not going to come anywhere close to maximizing. You're always going to be checking other people's stuff. You're going to be redoing it. You're not going to let them do it. You're going to take all the hard stuff, all these sorts of things. That's a disaster. So this isn't just a skill for working on a team, but it's as you progress in life, you're going to become leaders, you're going to become managers, and you're going to have to trust the people who are working for you, that they will come up with the solutions. You have to have trust in them. And this doesn't mean you don't verify and check their work. Or you don't have other people check their work. We always need people to check our works. Think about all the times that you've written something and you can't figure out and catch the mistakes that you've made in it, and you have someone else read it and they can see those issues. That's a different matter. That's not trust. That's having humility for yourself to know that you make mistakes and you need other people to help you catch them. It's the same thing, managers know that we need to help people in that process to find their mistakes. That's not a lack of trust. Lack of trust is not letting people do things and taking things away from them and so forth and so on. So this is the first one is really big, is to keep in mind everyone you're going to work with is really smart. Okay, they're especially, you're already here at the University of Waterloo. You're not surrounded by people who are lacking in intelligence. Not at all. And so they are competent. They are capable of doing things. They may not have learned how to do something yet, but they are capable of learning it. And they might need your help to learn it, but they are competent. And so you have to trust that they can do it. And I've often seen teams, these really frustrating situations where we have someone who's still learning the material, they're working really hard on something, and then someone on the team just becomes impatient. And without even talking to the other team member, goes and does the task, shows up at the next meeting and says, I did it. And the other person's like, I've been working 2 days on it. And the other, well, we couldn't wait for you. And so not only do they waste effort, but they go and they attack the other person. And they just show this complete lack of trust. Again, the better thing to do is to reach out and say, I'd love to be able to help you so that we can get this done. Let's work together on this. I know you've made lots of great progress so far, but other things on the team are waiting on it. And let me help you finish it and get it over the finish line. Okay. This thing, I think one of the things that people need to really keep in mind is that you do not really know what goes into other people's decisions. Okay, so I think that part of this thing is you lack knowledge that others have. As they make decisions. Okay, and so the nature of this really is that someone's in the midst of solving the problem, and they've taken this input, that input, all of these sort of things, and they're like, they make the best decision that they can make based upon all the available knowledge, and you need to trust that they've done that. Too often what happens is, so you're missing some of those pieces of knowledge because they were in the midst of the decision making. And you come and you look at it from the outside and you go, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why'd you do that? You start off with an attack, you start off with an accusation that they're not very smart or bright, that they've done something foolish. But that's really not the case. You just are not aware of all the things that they have considered. And likewise, when you're working, you probably experienced this as well. You take all this stuff into consideration, and you know how hard you work to try to figure it all out, and then you present your final set of work, and people may not understand why you did it. And it can be really frustrating. So this is where I think a lot of the problem rests with the trust, is that we forget this. You gotta believe that your teammates, given all the knowledge, they've made the best decision that they can. This doesn't mean that you can't talk to them about it and find out what the data was, find out what led them to their decisions. Again, you're going to trust, but you can also verify what's going on so that you're all on the same page. But it's not out of an accusation. Too often we skip remembering this and just immediately go, that doesn't make any sense to me. That seems stupid. Usually through some discussion, we can understand, yes, they made the right choice. Okay, you're working with competent people. You got to trust them. You can't get anywhere if you don't, and this becomes even more important as you go more senior levels. The point is, you hired these people for their abilities. You have to let them solve the problems because you can't solve them all. Okay. So part of one of the things to all of this, to the humility, respect, and trust, but really getting back also to the humility, is you got to help you get there, you got to think about that you need to, as the authors say, lose the ego. Okay, um, and I think there's an important point here to lose the ego, and there's a way to function and work. So that I want you to consider that if you are great, so let's say, you truly are for some reason superb in some aspect. One of these abilities that are unique to you, and you might be like, well, everyone should listen to me because I know the most about this, or I have the most experience. But the big thing is, if you are great, I'll tell you, people will listen. People will seek you out. And they'll seek out your opinion, okay? There's no need to make a show of your abilities, to be a diva or whatever it is. And so, rather than go forth and be telling everyone what to do, telling them what they're doing is wrong, what you really want to do is get to the notion in your mind that you're going to lead by example. All right, so you do write beautiful code. You do know how to test things better. You are really successful in your designs. It will come to be that people see this. You don't need to go force it on them. And you don't need to be telling other people what they're doing is wrong from the outside. If you can lead by example, people will be drawn to you. They will seek you out. They'll value your opinion. They'll see what a valuable contributor you are to the team. So lose the ego. Focus on doing great work, and a lot of this other stuff will follow. So once you're a shining star, yeah, people will want to bask in your light. It's not something that goes in the opposite direction. It's not that you show people how shining you are by telling them what they're doing is wrong and putting them down or being critical and why won't you listen to me? I know best. No, focus on you set an example, and other people will eventually come to if you've got humility, you are always showing respect for people. It's clear that you trust them. The package is going to lead them to realizing, yeah, I'm going to seek your advice. I'm going to ask you to read this. I'm going to want to work with you. But doing it the other way, where you're trying to force yourself on people to show them how great you are, that just meets with resistance and isn't going to work. So I really agree with the authors of Team Geek. Keeping this humility, respect, and trust as top of mind can really help the team a lot.